Kia ora, good evening. New Zealand's merchandise trade terms rose 7.5% in the September quarter this year, reaching their highest level in 40 years. The latest increase is due to export prices and goods rising more than import prices. Dairy exports have helped lift the terms of trade to their highest level since 1973, with both terms of trade and export pricing on the rise since the start of the year. Dairy exports rose 24% in the latest quarter and are now 46% higher than just a year ago, according to Statistics New Zealand. The increase in purchasing power of New Zealand's exports means New Zealand can buy more imports for the same amount of exports. Coal Action want Westpac Bank not to support Bathurst Resources' attempt to open cast coal mine on the Denniston Plateau near Westport. Coal Action Mirahuku representatives stationed themselves outside Westpac on Kelvin Street today. Spokesperson Dave Kennedy says Westpac banks around the country have been the target of protest, with the most recent in Gore yesterday.
We're really concerned about climate change, obviously. I'm here representing Coal Action Mirahuku, and Westpac are potentially going to be funding the coal mining on the Denniston Plateau, and we'd like them to withdraw their support of that particular company.
That's not confirmed though, is it?
No, it's not confirmed, but I understand that Westpac are their main banker and they lack finance to do the project within their own means, so they will need to get capital from somewhere, and I'll presume that Westpac would be their main finance.
And Westpac have been an award winner in the past, haven't they?
That's right, 2011 they won a sustainability award, so we see the two projects aren't compatible.
The Denniston project itself, what will that involve?
Well, it involves destroying quite a wonderful natural environment and also removing 84 million tonnes of coal.
The world still wants the coal, doesn't it? Why shouldn't we make money, or Westpac make money out of getting that out of the ground?
Well, we understand that coal is one of the main contributing factors for causing climate change, and the world market for coal is dropping, so we can't see the point of investing so much money and effort into mining coal in a wonderful environment.
And this is a nationwide campaign?
It is a nationwide campaign. People in most cities around New Zealand are doing some action outside Westpac banks.
Southland has the third highest rate of home ownership in the country, with 2,000 more homes occupied than 7 years ago. Results from the 2013 census show overall New Zealand has a lower rate of home ownership than in 2006, yet the number of dwellings has increased. The latest census results show in Southland the rate of home ownership was 69.7%, the third highest home ownership rate by region. However, that rate has dropped from the 2006 census, when home ownership rated at 73.5%. The drop is the largest regional fall of home ownership in that time. The median income for those over 15 in Southland is $29,500, $1,000 more than the national average. Events like the Burt Munro Challenge leave their financial mark on the region, and it's Venture Southland's role to assess what that is. Venture have employed APR consultants to measure the economic spin-offs of events like the Burt Munro Challenge. Hunter Andrews asked Conference and Events team leader Amanda Dowling about the process earlier today.
We survey the participants, the people staying at the rally site, as well as the spectators who come. So we've got a whole team, and they've been interviewing everyone down here for the last week.
And what have you done in the past? Is what you're doing now different from what methods you employed in the past?
The methods are different over the years. Things have changed. We've got APR consultants in doing this for us, and what they do is they look at, there's a multiplier, and that will take out money. Although people spend money here, there's some things that don't stay. If they're spending petrol, a lot of that money ends up elsewhere. So there's a multiplier effect, so we're able to see the real value, the real financial value to the region. So it's more accurate than it was, say, 5 years ago when we used to do surveys. So yeah, a much better picture of how much money there is left in the region.
So when you say money that stays in the region or is left in the region, what sort of money is that? That's accommodation and that sort of thing,
yes.
And hospitality?
Yep, they are, definitely a lot of money, accommodation, retail, food definitely high, as well as the motorcycle shops. They were really busy, over this week. So Yeah, it spans over a whole different area.
And over what time frame? When will you have hard data as to how beneficial that the Burt Munro Challenge is?
Right, so we're just getting all the information away now. We've also actually got it online for the people that stayed at the rally site as well, so that will just take us we'll close that survey down in a couple of days, and we will have the information to us 6 weeks after APR consultants have had it. They've got their economists, their analysts, they'll look at it, and then we'll get the data. And
what does Venture do with that information?
It's good data for us. I mean, it's important because if events are wanting public money, it's good for that. We're able to see it adds value, so the council can support it. It's also good for sponsors, people coming in and looking at sponsoring the event. It's really good for that. So they're the main things, and be able to see the value of events is important, because it takes a lot of resource to run events, and to be able to see the worthwhile of it, financially is a good thing.
Stay with us. Environment Southland Chair Ellie Timms reviews the Regional Authority's year. Welcome back. Environment Southland Chair Ellie Timms says the organisation has had a good 2013, a year that saw Environment Southland place a heavy emphasis on water quality. Ms Timms says public awareness of water quality in the region has changed dramatically in the last 3 years.
It's been, once again, a really busy year, but quite exciting, I think. We're putting a lot of programs in place at the moment, and we'll see the rollout of those happening next year, particularly the programs around freshwater quality.
Yes, freshwater, that seems to be the priority, doesn't it? And good to have the Ministry of Environment down last week, actually taking submissions.
Yeah, they came down last week, and we also had a really good workshop last week with some people from Environment Canterbury and Greater Wellington Regional Council, and they were talking to us about the collaborative processes that they're already using around implementing freshwater quality guidelines in the National Policy Statement. So we're very interested in what they're doing down there, and I think a collaborative type process will be a good fit for Southland. We already have really good relationships with iwi down here, and it's about the community working via a collaborative process to set the limits and values on water quality that they want for Southland.
And working in with industry, of course, and Fonterra released saying that they have covered, they're now fenced 90% of waterways. That's a real achievement for them.
That is a real achievement for them, and we've actually just been talking about fencing and riparian management at a workshop this morning. The gains that industry has made is really good, but we need to look at all types of land use in Southland, all types of farming in Southland, particularly on our more intensive areas where the need for fencing and so on is just going to be greater, and we're talking about how we can roll that out pretty quickly in Southland.
There is great community buy-in, isn't there? We were out with Woodland School last week with ES staff, of course, but it seems everyone's buying into the idea of clean water.
I've seen a real change in Southland's attitude over the last 3 years, and I think that this has been kicked off particularly around the concerns about the Waituna Lagoon, the water quality issues down there. Everybody's realising now that this isn't about pointing the finger. We all need to take responsibility for our own actions and how they can affect water quality, and this isn't just the rural community, it's the urban communities as well.
A quick word on the makeup of the council election, of course, this year. You've got some diverse range of views represented.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think it would be terrible if we all agreed all the time. So it's good to have diversity of opinion, but I also think it's important that once we've agreed as a council on our path forward, that we need to get in behind that and really help to promote that with the community.
Yellow recycling bins will be under inspection all over the south over the next 10 weeks as WasteNet South and staff focus on reducing contamination. Contaminated material going into the yellow recycling bins is nearing 15%. A level senior waste officer, Donna Peterson, says must come down to nil. To counter the issue, students have been hired over the summer break to undertake inspections, and where problems are found, an information tag will be left on the handle of the bin. Recent inspections of 729 yellow bins in Winton found 27 recycling bins weren't emptied due to contamination, while 20% of residents were placing non-recyclable items such as clothing, meat tray and bagged recyclables for collection. Journalist and author Lynley Smith is in the city to promote her new book about a relative who left Scotland in order to take care of Jewish Hungarian orphans during the Second World War. Jane Haining thought only of the safety of the children and declined to return home to Scotland, instead choosing to stay with the children, a decision that cost her her life. Hunter Andrews asked the author what inspired her to write the book.
I was inspired because I was given a little booklet by my mother just before she died in 2005, telling me about a distant relative who died for the sake of Jewish children in Budapest. She died in Auschwitz, in the gas chambers, we believe. And that story just absolutely touched my heart. And as a journalist, I know a good story, but this was a little bit more than a good story. I felt really compelled to go overseas and research it and walk in her footsteps and really understand her.
And she could have left that situation at any time, couldn't she? She did commit herself to those children.
She did commit herself. She was called back to Scotland by the mission society that sent her out, and she refused to go because she said the children needed her more now than ever before. The Jewish children were losing their parents in the war. They were becoming real orphans, and she was like their mother. And she had committed herself to that, and she refused to go.
And what's the feedback reception been for the book?
It's been amazing, actually. Sometimes when I talk to a group, some people I become very emotional. Many people will say, this story is awesome. You know, it means a lot to people, different things to different people. Jewish people, it's a huge comfort. To other people, it's sometimes a wake-up call about what might happen. It's a fictional diary because she didn't have a diary, but I tell the story of how she was the matron, how she loved the children, how she looked after them, and how she refused to leave them, and how she was arrested and taken to Auschwitz, just like the Jews and Roma people, and she suffered the same fate as they did.
And a pretty relevant lesson now with what's happening in Europe.
Extremely relevant. In Europe right now, in most European countries, and certainly in Hungary, the neo-Nazi, the right-wing nationalist parties are resurging and becoming very popular. And this book is actually being used as almost to counter that, to say, just a minute, take a look at history, take a look at the commitment this woman had to a minority group, and her refusal to budge from that and to side with those who would try and bring violence into the community. Take a look at this and learn the lesson.
And Lynley Smith will be speaking at the Invercargill Public Library tomorrow evening at 5:30. And that brings us to a close this Tuesday evening. Next on Sport, we speak to Southland Sevens co-coach Grant Dermody about Southland's performance at the recent South Island tournament. That's after the weather next. From us, good night.